Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Jeffrey here, and this is Dad Cooking. I'm a dad, and I like cooking. I'm gonna put on my signature apron. You know, a couple months ago, I tried to launch Dad Cooking, and I stumbled a little bit out of the gate. Had some trouble, but I'm gonna give it another shot because the world needs Dad Cooking, and I need to have a little fun while I'm in the kitchen cooking. I'm always in the kitchen cooking, and I got to do something to make it more fun than just chopping and washing and drying stuff. So we're going to do Dad Cooking. Now, I'll have you know that I like to cook and I like to eat and I like to chop stuff. And my favorite knucklehead son, well, not my favorite, but a fantastic young boy who loves cooking. And he loves eating, and he loves Dad Cooking. He's in here right now. He's one of the 3 reasons why I'm a dad who does Dad Cooking. Anyway, he's buzzing around. He's distracting and delighting me at the same time. I love to cook and eat healthy. The reason why we cook all the time is because we want to have healthy, nutritious diet consisting of whole foods. Not a diet like the Atkins diet or the South Beach diet. I'm talking about a nutritional lifestyle, the diet of things that I eat. I'm not on a diet. I have a diet of things that I eat. And one of the things I love to eat is Brussels sprouts. I love to chop them. I love to eat them. I cut the end off. I cut that bad boy in half, and I put it on my tray. And I'll show you what this tray looks like when I'm done. I also when I cut the Brussels sprouts, I get these little chips. I get these little Brussels sprout shavings that I put in the pan. And when they roast up, we call them Brussels sprout chips. And so what we're making today is roasted Brussels sprouts. Really simple, whole food. I'm going to spritz a little olive oil on there. I'm going to put a little salt and pepper on there, throw them in the oven. They're delicious and they're fantastic. And that's what we're going to chop and make today. I'm thinking maybe I should have like a script for these Dad Cooking videos. And then look, we're all busy. A lot of us are working professionals. I have a job, a lot of the people watching this, maybe you have jobs too. I don't have time to sit around writing scripts and editing scripts for Dad Cooking. I'm just out here winging it. And I'm chopping my Brussels sprouts. So if I'm a little choppy while I do my chopping, that's just the price we have to pay to bring nutritious, whole food cooking processes to the masses on YouTube. And as we chop these Brussels sprouts, I'd like to thank some of the people who made this Dad Cooking video possible. I'm talking about Publix supermarkets, where I bought the Brussels sprouts that I'm chopping for my family. Hats off to Publix. We have a couple of different grocery stores that we love to shop at, and Publix just happens to be the one that's the closest to our house. So we do a lot of shopping at Publix. And I would also add that Publix is like a mainstay of our community. And Publix has its Publix relations snafus from time to time. And there's certain things that people connected to Publix do that I'm a little bit iffy about some of what Publix does in terms of its portfolio and its public culture and so forth. And that's okay. I'm not getting my Brussels sprouts because of how Publix makes political donations or anything like that. But I will say that Publix is a mainstay in our community. And the people who work at the local Publix are all wonderful people who feel like my neighbors. And in some cases, the folks who've been there for years and years, they feel like my friends. These are people who I see multiple times a week. They know me, they know my kids. And I'm really, really thankful for all the people at Publix who work so hard, not only to make sure the shelves are stocked with the groceries that we love to eat, but also who really make our experience at Publix a pleasure. And Publix is not giving me a dime for this. Not yet. Not until Dad Cooking goes viral and everybody wants to pay me to be on Dad Cooking, but I think that Publix's slogan is like where shopping is a pleasure. And I definitely really value the people who work at Publix. They're neighbors, they're friends, they're hard workers who are underappreciated. Hats off to all you Publix folks. Now that I'm done with my Publix greed, we can focus on the Brussels sprouts. These Brussels sprouts are called Season and Steam Microwavable Sprouts. Ocean Mist is the maker. Ocean Mist. Season and Steam Microwavable Sprouts. I never microwave my Brussels sprouts. When I'm making vegetables, I almost always roast them in the oven because they're delicious that way. And sometimes we'll saute them. And sometimes, like we do a lot of green beans. And the green beans are super easy in the microwave. I'll throw them in there. And maybe I'll do a Dad Cooking where I'm microwaving my green beans. But I'm really just going to season and roast these. Look at this delicious Brussels sprout chip. My son over here, he's 7. He doesn't like the real Brussels sprouts, but he'll eat the chips with his special sauce. Right, little buddy? Yeah, he will. I told him to clam up for this video because he and his brother were mucking up the earlier iteration of Dad Cooking. All right, I'm going to keep chopping and keep making vegetables. Since this is Dad Cooking, I want to talk a little bit about my son who's over here. He's 7, and he is just absolutely one of the most fantastic human beings I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. And, part of Dad Cooking is not just me chopping vegetables and seasoning them and roasting them. It's me providing, what I like to call daddy wisdom. I tell my kids, hey, here comes some daddy wisdom, and they groan and they roll their eyes. But this guy, he is being a fantastic guy right now. And, daddy wisdom is not me pontificating. Sometimes it's just stories about what's going on here. And I'll tell you a little story about this guy right now. He's on summer break, and he's having some good times, but he's also struggling a little because he's cooped up in the house a little bit more than he's used to. And he loves school, this little guy. He tells me all the time he loves school. He loves going to school. He's super happy there. Now he's got to stay at home. And, he's got a brother and a sister. And, it can be tough. He's the middle child. It can be tough on that middle guy. For those of you out there who have an odd number of kids. It's a little tough on him sometimes. I was a middle child, so I have a lot of empathy for him. I understand what he's going through. But right now, today, he is really just on point. He hasn't been able to play Minecraft for a couple of days for various reasons. But he's going to get a glowing report from me to his mother when she comes back today. Because he's following directions. He's got this keen look about him. He's watching the movie The Bad Guys for about the 50th time. And I'll tell you something funny about this guy. So my 7-year-old over here, he's watching this movie The Bad Guys right now. And for those of you who don't know, The Bad Guys is a book series by this author named Aaron Blabey, who also writes the Pig the Pug books. We love Aaron Blabey in our house. Hats off to you, Mr. Blabey. But my son here, he loves The Bad Guys. And it's about a wolf and a snake. And there's like a tarantula, piranha. There's a shark who's like a master of disguise. All these animals, they're the bad guys because they're the bad animals and they do bad things. And they decide in this movie that they want to try to be good guys. And they want to build the brand as good guys instead of bad guys.
And only wolf turns pure good.
Only wolf turns pure good. I don't know. I mean, we can debate the nuances of the movie if you want. But what the point of my Dad Cooking story here, dude, is that my son, he always seems to love the bad guys. He loves the bad guys. Whatever it is, I'm one of these guys. I love the good guys. I always loved the good guys when I was a kid and sort of see myself as this good guy. Not him. He likes the bad guys. And, maybe that's not why he's getting to play Minecraft. Maybe that's why he's not getting to play Minecraft as much as he wants, because he wants to be the bad guy. I keep trying to tell him you want to be the good guy. And you can go from being a bad guy to a good guy, All you got to do is make up your mind that that's what you want to do. I'm just about done chopping my Brussels sprouts here. And when I'm done with them, we're gonna season them and we're gonna roast them. And hopefully we'll get some angles so you can see what that looks like. All right, so I've chopped all my Brussels sprouts and I'm left with like these ends that I chop off my Brussels sprouts. So what I like to do is I like to load up the bag with the Brussels sprout end pieces. I'm just gonna drop all this in the trash because, as I say, Dad cooking is not just about cooking, it's also about cleaning. And a lot of what goes on in this kitchen is cleaning up from cooking. And when I was younger, this was a big problem for me. Like, I said to myself, oh, I'm gonna cook and I'm gonna be healthy and all this stuff. And what happened to me was, this is back in the days when I was a bachelor, before I met my wife, and we had division of labor and shared responsibility. Great stuff for you young people out there who are watching this. I had to do it all myself, and it was a drag, man. I had to do all the prep and all the cooking and all the cleaning myself. And the prep and the cooking and the cleaning would take hours, and the actual eating would take like 15 minutes when you're a bachelor at your table. And I'd be like, man, the ROI on this whole cooking thing just isn't worth it. Oh, it's his favorite part of the movie. But now I really feel differently. Like, I take joy in the act of prepping and cooking. It's very satisfying to me to eat my own home-cooked meals. It's much better for me than ordering takeout from somewhere. And I've even developed a kind of discipline and love for the cleaning, because really what that stands for is one aspect of what it means to me as a dad to be a provider, to be a contributor and a leader around the house, who's also sharing those values with my kids by showing them my example. So enough of this high-minded stuff. Let's cook some Brussels sprouts. Okay, so I got the oven preheated over here. Now we got to season these Brussels sprouts. Now what I'm going to do for this is I have this Pam olive oil cooking spray. Now this is not like an aerosol spray like you get in the Pam cans, and I have my own small army of Pam cans over there. You can see some of them in my pantry. This is like a spritz. It's like an olive oil spritz, which we like better than doing like a tablespoon or 2 or 3 tablespoons of olive oil that we drizzle around it. The spritz gives everything a nice coating, but it actually uses much lower volume of olive oil than dumping tablespoons of it on the veggies. Now I also have pepper here. I love pepper. I love to put pepper on stuff. This pepper is getting a little low. I don't know if you can see that, but I have a backup pepper here. I'm crazy about backups, and I was just thinking about this as I was prepping. I got this baking tray lined with foil. I always got to have a backup on hand. I don't ever want to be in a position where I run out of something and the backup isn't there. So not only do I have the pepper backup, it's actually on the counter, because I'm afraid that this might not be enough, but it probably will be. I have my Hain iodized sea salt. I like sea salt. It makes things salty. We have kosher salt in there. My wife always says kosher salt is more forgiving. You can over-salt something with kosher salt and it's still not too bad, but there have been times when I've gone too far with the sea salt and it's just like, whoa, Daddy put too much salt on there. All right, I'm gonna turn my camera around and we can see if I can shoot this for you. So, okay, here you see my Brussels sprouts. Oh, look at this thing. I'll tell you about this in a minute. Some of you might know what that is. There's a cool thing in here. It's in the background right now. I'm gonna spritz my olive oil on here. There, you can kind of see it going on there. And look at this, I'm getting my olive oil all over. This is really cool. This is one of the most dynamic shots in the history of Dad cooking. Okay. We got a nice little coating of olive oil all over this. And I can tell you just by eyeballing it, all of this spritzing coating my Brussels sprouts has been less than half a tablespoon. I've barely drained anything from there during the course of that. And I've got olive oil evenly distributed over all of my stuff. Now, I always do the salt before the pepper because people say salt and pepper and I'm a weirdo like that. But what I like to do is I go all the way around the edge and then I'll fill out the middle. Now that might look like a lot of salt to you, and it actually might be a lot of salt, but my doctor has told me that my sodium levels are healthy enough. I don't have to worry about putting too much salt from a sodium standpoint. The people have trouble with sodium when they eat a lot of processed foods, and I don't eat any. Like my diet has become super clean. There's that word again, diet. What I eat has become so super clean and so loaded with whole foods that practically the only salt I get is what I add myself. And I'm psyched about that. I love that. I love that my diet has become clean and filled with whole foods. I tell my other son, whole foods are foods with one ingredient, Brussels sprouts. It's a whole food. Even salt, in a way. It's just one thing, it's salt. All right, is there anything else? There's tricalcium phosphate and dextrose in this sea salt. No, we're gonna have to do something about that. All right, so I got it all set. Now, I'll check this out. What I like to do, now what I'm gonna do, you can see my hands, I'm gonna mush all this around. What's gonna happen is I'm gonna mush it around, and then I'm gonna have to wash my hands because I can't pick stuff up when my hands are covered with olive oil and salt and pepper. So I'm gonna mush it all around. Right now you can see my hands, they're all covered in gunk, right? They're covered in olive oil. But now, see, this is where I get crazy. And I'm gonna have a little screed in a minute here. But what I like to do is turn all of these Brussels sprouts face down because I want them to evenly roast, and I want them to roast for half the time face down and half the time face up. So I'm gonna start with them face down and go through the whole sheet, making sure every Brussels sprout is face down. And then I'm gonna let this roast in 450 degrees for 25 minutes. And when 25 minutes is up, I'm gonna take them out and flip them. Depending on how well done they are, I'll flip them all face up for anywhere between 15 to 25 minutes for the second turn. We have a little man here with a question. What can I do for you? He's trying to figure out how to get on the video so he can interfere. Hey man, I just was praising the audience about how well you were following directions. Are you going to sabotage yourself and your Minecraft prospects just to put your fingers on my video? I didn't think so. All right. Okay, so we have the whole thing face down, and you can see that we have a lot of these Brussels sprout chips in here too. Are you free feeding from the goldfish bag? That's not dad cooking. Hey, all right, I gotta wash my hands and put a stop to this rampant snacking. All right, see you in a little bit. Okay, so the next move is to drop this puppy in the oven. There we go.
Drop it in the oven. Drop it in the oven.
25 minutes, and we're cooking Brussels sprouts.
How about we cook Bailey?
We are not cooking the dog. You let the dog out. Oh boy, he's gonna eat something. Okay, so the Brussels sprouts went in the oven. I'm not sure how much of that we caught. There was a disruption in the end when my son, he let the puppy loose. The puppy started eating stuff. Just a day in the life of dad, in the dad cooking realm. I was highlighting this little bad boy when I was spritzing my Brussels sprouts. This is a fly swatter in the year 2023. You can see the button here. When I push the button, it sends an electrical charge up this racket. And it's like, I tell my kids in the old days, back in the 70s, in the 80s, people had these bug zappers in the back of their homes that were like a glowing light, and the bugs would fly too close to the light and bzzzt, they would fry the bugs with a bolt of electricity. That's what this is in the palm of my hand. And all I have to do is push the button and swing it. Ah! I don't know what happened. There, but it zapped, and I was like, whoa. We live in Florida, and in the summertime in Florida, with all the moisture and everything, there's a ton of flies. And everybody talks about flies. They come in from the back patio. They come in through the garage. I'm sort of like a master fly hunter where I can really carefully align my hands and smack above the fly. And I have a pretty high percentage, pretty high kill rate on the flies. This puppy will potentially revolutionize fly killing as we know it. But just so you get a clear picture of who I am, aside from the accoutrements on the fridge, we also have the old-fashioned 1970s fly swatter, which I'm very comfortable and adept with, and that we're comfortable letting our children use. My 10-year-old seems to love the electrical gadget. Something tells me it's not going to end well. There aren't a lot of safety considerations around this thing, and I'm not willing to test it. I am not willing to do that. I doubt my kids have similar good judgment. Anyway, the Brussels sprouts are cooking. I'm going to do some other stuff here. We'll take a look at them when it's time to flip them, okay? All right. Gonna have a little fun here. We've finished our first cooking cycle here, 25 minutes. You can see the Brussels sprouts. You can see the chips are starting to brown. That makes them nice and crispy. And we're gonna come a little closer and take a look at these Brussels sprouts as I flip them. But we're moving along here. We're gonna have a really nice tray of roasted Brussels sprouts pretty soon. Now, a lot of times I'll go over here to my handy dandy tongs and flip them this way. And you can see how the bottom is kind of like browning a little bit. It's like charring. See that? That's what I love to see. Now, some people like their Brussels sprouts kind of soft. Some people like them kind of firm. I like mine almost crunchy. Like they're crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside. And some people would like them like this. Some people like them lightly roasted like this. I like mine a lot darker than this. So I'm gonna flip all these Brussels sprouts over. And here, let's see if we can get an angle on this. How's that? That's a little better. I'm gonna flip them all and I'm gonna put this back in. Now what I've done, like the last couple times I put the second cycle at 25 minutes at 450 degrees here, it's been a bit much. It comes out a little bit more roasted, a little bit darker than I really like it. So I think what I'm gonna do today is try the 15 minutes and see how they look after that. I've had good success at 15 minutes in the past, but you really gotta flip them all. And you can see it's kind of a detail-oriented thing. Like you gotta really be patient with it and take the time to get all your Brussels sprouts flipped the way you like them. Or don't, or do it your own way. You know, I have a wife that I'm married to. I'm not married to my cooking process, but I have had some success with some of this. And part of the reason why I'm doing Dad Cooking is to show people how I do things that are actually pretty easy. This isn't that time intensive. It probably took me between 10 and 15 minutes, let's say 12 minutes, to chop the Brussels sprouts and spritz them and salt and pepper them. And then I put them in the oven and just sort of let them roast. And I'm doing all kinds of other stuff while this is going on. It's not like I'm locked into this dish the whole time, or there's detail-oriented prep where I got to measure stuff out and this kind of stuff. And we do a lot of cooking like that, by the way. We have a lot of detail-oriented recipes, and I'm hoping I can share some of them with you. But this is pretty simple. You roast the Brussels sprouts, you flip them, and you roast them again. And now, maybe I'm at the point, well, it's still a little hot, and I'd rather not touch them with my bare hands if I don't have to. So I'm just gonna keep flipping them. And I'm coming down to the end game here. Once they're all flipped, I'll throw them back in. And the next time we check on them, hopefully they'll be done. All right, one more row here. There we go, straighten it out. Try a chip. Not quite crispy enough yet. Nice and salty though. Oh, this one's a little stubborn. There we go. All right. You can see I've got a whole flipped tray of Brussels sprouts. I'm gonna throw these back in. All right. See you in 25 minutes. Hey guys, one thing I want to reflect on here today as I relaunch Dad Cooking. Before I gotta go get my daughter, she's 3 and she's fantastic. My wife and son are coming back from the movie they went to go see. and they're gonna create a stir when they come in. So this may be the last little moment in today's episode that we get, where it's just us together. And, you know, I love to chop stuff. I chopped the Brussels sprouts today. You saw me painstakingly flipping each Brussels sprout. And the chopping in particular is like a thing that I have. And people over the years, namely my mom, most of all, have been like, oh, you're OCD, the way you like to chop stuff. And sometimes I make jokes like, oh, I'm all into my chopping. And I am. I'm like, I love chopping stuff. And I get really into it. And I have particular ways of doing it that satisfy me personally. But I don't want to, you know, I don't want to joke about OCD. I know OCD is actually a pretty serious psycho-neurological condition that can be disruptive to people's lives and impact people's lives in negative ways. I just, you know, I'm just kind of into chopping stuff, and I have particular ways that I like to do it. So you might see me kind of joke about it or reference my sort of like a chopping, it's like a thing that I have. I don't want to use the word fetish. People take that the wrong way. People take OCD the wrong way. I just like to chop stuff. And I have particular ways of doing things that you could see with my painstaking flipping of the Brussels sprouts. It's all good. It's all in good fun. And I hope that you're enjoying this relaunch of Dad Cooking as we approach the conclusion of this episode. So I'm here by the oven. I'm getting ready to pull out the Brussels sprouts. My daughter is here. My beloved puppy is here. Let's see what we have. Oh yeah. This looks like a good batch. This looks like a good batch of Brussels sprouts. I'm gonna turn the camera around so you can see. See that? Now these are nicely browned and nicely roasted. You can see you got the good chips. You can hear that crunch. But they're not too well done. See that? It's a little hot to pop in my mouth. I'm gonna do it. All right, that looks good. Sometimes it's the little things. Nothing got on our dress. We got a delicious batch of roasted Brussels sprouts. The rain has calmed down. Everybody's feeling good. So I'm going to wrap up this episode of Dad Cooking. I want to thank you all for joining me. I hope I've got the stick-to-itiveness and the go-to to edit this and post it. If you enjoyed this video, like the video, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be putting out more of these Dad Cooking videos. Tell your friends if they want delicious, home-cooked, whole food type recipes, suggestions, processes. Come and join us on Dad Cooking, all right? I love you all. Be safe out there. See you around.